This is part 6 of this incredible book by Carla L Ruchert and L Research. To continue, the principles are simple. Once these principles are understood, it is a matter of using the inner discipline of the true player to become a metaphysical athlete. This all sounds pretty hard, and a challenge it is indeed. It is a life's work, but its rewards, graduation into a new life and adventures surpassing the imagination, are worth it. Chapter 2. Polarity and the choice. Polarity on the game board. Ethical actions are those taken with consideration and compassion for others. The golden rules of ethics appears in all religions. Hinduism. This is the sum of duty. Do not unto others which, if done to thee, will cause thee pain. Zoroastrianism. The nature alone is good, which refrains from doing unto another whatsoever is not good for itself. Taoism. Regard your neighbour's gain as your own gain, and your neighbour's loss as your own loss. I love that one. Buddhism. Hurt not others in ways you wouldn't find hurtful. Confucianism. Do not unto others what you would not have them do unto you. Jainism. In happiness and suffering, in joy and grief, we should regard all creatures as we regard our own self. Judaism. Whatever you hath thyself, that do not to another. Christianity. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye ever so to them. Islam. No one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself. Sikhism. As thou deemest thyself, so deem others. Are you noticing a pattern yet? Every single religion on planet Earth is saying the same one message. They are all trying to worship the same one source in just distorted ways. Okay, this is what's going on. And we are reaching a point now where humanity is waking up out of religion and into something that is beyond religion, something that is epi-religion, above religion. To continue, the seeker's use of the concepts of polarity in making choices in everyday life is what transforms the lowercase game of life into the uppercase spiritually alive game of life. It is the single most crucial detail discussed by the Confederation concerning how the game board works. It is the key to winning the game of life. Let's look at this concept from the most basic level. What is polarity? In the study of magnets, which is where I first became familiar with the concept of polarity in school, I found that in nature, iron is generally not magnetized. Iron ore naturally contains many magnetic crystallites, tiny crystalline bodies within the rock whose magnetic moments or tendencies to produce spin around an axis almost always tend to cancel each other out. However, if the iron comes into contact with an already polarized magnet of sufficient strength, the magnet causes those moments in the raw ore to line up so that they are all spinning in the same direction. That piece of iron is now magnetized. The magnet has a dynamic nature. One end of it, the North Pole, is positively polarized. The other end of it, of the magnetized iron, its South Pole, is negatively polarized. This magnet now has the power to do certain kinds of work, which is to magnetize other lumps of iron by coming into contact with them, or to act as a compass which will point to magnetic north when floated in water or balanced on a pivot, allowing it to swing freely. The crystallites in our human ore are ethical choices. In the usual run of behaviour, we make choices at random with respect to ethics. We are not born as naturally ethical beings, any more than iron ore is naturally created as a magnet. Until we understand right from wrong in some way, we will make choices which seem useful to us at the time, but which have no overall consistency and follow no coherent pattern or plan. So we as human beings do not develop any polarity or power to do work until we undertake our own ethical training and discipline, excuse me, we begin to make constant and consistent ethical choices. We line up the crystallites in our human awe and begin to develop our characteristics of a magnet, able to do work within our consciousness as we line up more and more of our personality along one consistent line of seeking. We also can consciously make ethical choices along one line of intent. We also begin to radiate a metaphysical energy or power which expresses our ethical point of view. We can then, by our very being, act as a kind of magnet which helps others to become magnetized and polarized to make ethical choices also. Another example of power being developed is seen in an automobile engine. Before you start a car, the car is immobile. When you turn the ignition key, the engine comes to life. Its internal combustion engine fires up. Air and fuel are sparked into the tiny, controlled explosions within the cylinders of your car's engine. The power generated by those explosions is directed to the crankshaft, which develops torque, or the tendency to cause rotation. The crankshaft begins to turn. The crankshaft transfers those moments of rotation to the axles to which it is connected. The turning motion is transferred through the axles to the wheels. The wheels turn and the car rolls forward. The car is now able to do work and get you where you want to be. In terms of comparing ourselves to the way an automobile engine develops power, we can say that higher real-life situations which call for ethical choices are the fuel going into our engine. Our calling upon the higher ethical principles of the game board supplies air needed for combustion. An ethical response to an incoming situation fires up our engines. We develop personal power as we make ethical choices consistently. We gather momentum along a line of service and increase our polarity. Our human systems are like engines, in that if we do not use the concept of polarity, of right and wrong, to fuel our choices will not produce any torque, and metaphysically speaking, we will not develop the power to roll our wheels forwards. Making choices without using the principle of polarity leaves our engines' cylinders sitting in a gravity well, dead and still. No progress can be made under these conditions. Our parents and teachers believe that they have already taught us how to make the proper ethical choices. However, rather than get at the basic principles of ethical choice making, they have tended to give us seemingly arbitrary sets of rules to follow. The 10 Commandments are a good example of such a code of behavior. Its instructions are: don't worship any gods but Yahweh. Don't worship idols. Don't take insincere oaths or make false promises. Don't work on the Sabbath. Don't disrespect your parents. Don't kill anyone. Don't canoodle with anyone except your mates. Don't steal. Don't tell a lie about anyone. Don't wish you have what someone else has. This list of things not to do leaves a whole lot of ethical territory uncovered. The first 2 instructions and the 4th one also are about treating Yahweh right, their version of the Creator. The 5th instruction is about treating your parents rightly. The 3rd instruction and the rest of the list are about treating other people right. There is no attempt to explain why these points of behavior are appropriate. These are given as rules to follow blindly. The Lord's Prayer comes a bit closer to having an ethical centre of instruction that is logical. The basic thrust is that it is desirable for those on earth to behave as though we were already in heaven, where God's will is done. What is God's will? It is that we treat each other as we would wish to be treated. We forgive other people's faults, offences, and other misbehaviours as we hope other people will forgive our own errors. When we come to the golden rule found in the Holy Bible in Matthew 7:12, we find a sufficient version of this ethical principle of receptivity. My King James version of this quotation reads this way: "Therefore all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them." It is a simple concept. Treat people the way you would like to be treated. This principle of ethics echoes thoughts throughout all the world religions, and it can be extrapolated and to adapt to new situations and new choices. The principle of having compassion and consideration for others, just as you have compassion and consideration for yourself, is a solid tool to use in making ethical choices. When you treat someone the way you want to be treated, you are beginning to do ethical orientated work. You are polarizing towards the positive pole of your human awe, which you want to magnetize. You are aligning with an ethical idea, which is service to others. The reason that this choice kicks your engine over is that you are seeing the other person as equal to you. You are giving the other person the same entitlement to respect, honor, and decent treatment as you give to yourself. You are invoking the unitary nature of the game board and lifting yourself off the flat game board. This action takes discipline and conscious choice. It is often not an easy choice. It often costs us something to consider the needs of others with compassion and respond to them as though they were our own needs. Such action is the essence of ethical behavior. When human beings decide to become ethical beings and start making choices based on principles such as the golden rule, they become players of the game of life. The Service to Others Path of Polarity by Ra. What you have in terms of your ability to serve at this time is primarily your own deepening awareness of what it is to choose. What it is to choose is deeply that the rest of your life becomes a joy. What it is to choose is completely that there is no longer the need to spend time questioning whether faith is the answer, whether service is the answer, or whether one particular kind of service is better than another. When the choice for service to others has been made, absolutely there is a knowing that comes. It is a knowing that transcends planning. It is a knowing that includes the awareness that you really do not have control over anything but your own desires, your own will, and your own persistence. Magnets have a north or positive pole and a south or negative pole. We as human beings have the same metaphysical setup according to the Confederation. They call the north or positive pole the service to others polarity. They call the south or negative pole the service to self polarity. Interestingly, light moves from the south to the north pole. The south pole attracts it via gravitation or attempted absorption, and the north pole receives and radiates it. We can find instruction in pursuing the service to self-polarity by studying the literature on so-called black magic. According to the Confederation, choosing and following either path of seeking the positive or the negative path to increase one's polarity will work for graduation from planet Earth's density of choice. The only gambit which does not lead to graduation is not to choose either polarity to pursue. The Confederation is a group of beings which are of service to others polarity. I am also of service to others. Guess what? So am I. And I'm guessing that all of you out there are listening to this and that are reading this right now, because otherwise you won't be attracted to it. To continue, therefore, if you happen to want to polarize in service to self, you shall need to look elsewhere for insight as to how to proceed. If you are interested in following the path of service to others, read on. Religions generally teach us to choose the service to others polarity. However, the symbol of crucified Saviour does not inspire in most people the desire to go and do likewise. While the Christ's example of unconditional love to the point of death makes an excellent symbol for the concept of unconditional love, it is hard to translate into our actions and choices in everyday life. The Confederation describes the path of service to others as a path of forming and maintaining a positive attitude which informs all our decisions. The heart of this attitude is the awareness that the universe is an entirely unified, interactive, and living being made of absolute love, of which each of us is a part. As we weave our way through the decisions of our day, our attitude is orientated to seeing as broad a view of situations as possible so that we can more accurately evaluate whether or not ethical principles need to be involved in our choices. That's a good place to stop, and we shall carry on with the next part.